The night was quiet. The small town slept under the silver moon. In one lonely house, a man named Daniel sat at his kitchen table. He had just finished his dinner, a plate of pasta and bread. He leaned back in his chair, tired after a long day. The house felt safe, warm, and ordinary. But outside, something waited. At first, Daniel heard only a soft knock, 3 taps, polite and light. He frowned. Who could it be at this late hour? The clock on the wall showed almost midnight. He stood up slowly and walked to the door. The knock came again. Daniel opened the door and froze. 2 children stood on his porch, a boy and a girl no older than 10. They looked pale, too pale, like snow under moonlight. Their hair was dark, but their eyes glowed bright blue. Not normal blue, not like human eyes, but shining, almost like lights in the night. They smiled at him. The boy spoke first. His voice was soft, polite, but strange, almost too calm. "Excuse me, sir. Can we eat your leftovers?" Daniel blinked. He thought maybe he misheard. "What?" he asked. The girl tilted her head, smiling wider. Her teeth were small and even. "Your leftovers. Can we have them?" Daniel's skin crawled. Something about them was wrong. Their voices were too flat, too empty, but they looked so small, so innocent. Maybe they were hungry? Maybe lost? He hesitated, then forced a small smile. Sure. Come in." The children stepped inside. They moved strangely, their steps too light, almost floating. Daniel's chest tightened. His instincts told him to send them away, but his manners stopped him. He led them to the table. His plate still sat there, half covered with cold pasta. He pushed it toward them. "Here, go ahead." The boy and girl looked at each other and nodded. Then they leaned down to the plate. Daniel expected them to eat, to chew, to swallow, like normal children. But what he saw made his blood turn cold. They sighed. Food didn't go into their mouths. It didn't even touch their teeth. Instead, the pasta began to sink into their skin. Their faces glowed faintly as the food melted into their bodies, vanishing as if the plate was being erased. Within seconds, the plate was empty. Daniel's hands trembled. He pushed his chair back slowly. What did you just do, the boy wiped his lips even though nothing was there. He looked up with his glowing eyes. "Thank you, sir, that was good." The girl giggled. It was not a normal giggle. It sounded sharp, like glass breaking. "Yes, very good." Daniel's heart pounded. He wanted to ask questions, wanted to scream, but he stayed quiet, frozen in fear. The children whispered to each other in a language Daniel had never heard. It was not English, not any language he knew. The sound twisted the air, bending it, making his ears ache. Then the boy leaned closer to his sister. Daniel barely caught the words, but they were in English this time. "He might be the one." The girl nodded, her glowing eyes fixed on Daniel. "Yes, the one Mother told us about." Daniel stood up quickly, his chair scraping the floor. "Okay, that's enough. Time to go home. Where do you live? I'll call your parents." The boy and girl smiled again. They didn't answer. Instead, they turned toward the door. They walked out silently, as if they already knew he wouldn't stop them. Daniel locked the door the second they left. His chest heaved. His hands were cold. He tried to calm himself. They were just strange kids. That's all. Just kids. But he knew he was lying to himself. Hours passed. The house was quiet again. Daniel sat on his couch, staring at the dark window. He thought maybe he had imagined it. Maybe he was tired, dreaming. Then he saw it. On his front door, glowing faint blue, was a handprint. Small, childlike, but burned into the wood. The glow pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Daniel's mouth went dry. His stomach turned. They had marked his house. He didn't know why. He didn't know what they wanted. But he felt it in his bones. This was only the beginning. The night after the strange visit, Daniel did not sleep well. He tossed in bed, his mind replaying the pale faces, the glowing blue eyes, and that burned handprint on his door. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the children's smile, too calm, too knowing. By morning, the handprint was still there. It had faded a little, but the glow remained, as if the wood itself carried a living heartbeat. Daniel touched it once, and his finger burned cold, like ice fire. He pulled his hand back quickly. He tried to live normally. He brewed coffee, turned on the TV, even opened a book. But nothing felt normal anymore. The quiet of the house carried a strange weight. He felt watched. That night, the knocking did not return. But the silence was worse. The hook, a strange journey. The next evening, Daniel decided he couldn't just sit inside waiting. He needed answers. So he put on his jacket and followed the small road into the woods, the same woods the children had disappeared into. The trees grew tall and dark, whispering in the wind. Daniel's flashlight cut through the shadows. For a long while, nothing moved. Only the sound of his own steps echoed back at him. Then, he saw them. The children walked ahead on the trail side by side. They didn't run, didn't play. They moved like shadows, too quiet, too graceful for kids. Daniel stopped, his breath shallow. He expected the crunch of their steps on leaves, but there was none. Instead, wherever their feet touched, the grass bent, and then burned black as if touched by fire. Daniel's chest tightened. He followed from a distance, careful not to be seen. The children finally stopped at a small clearing. There, under the pale moonlight, they sat on the ground. Daniel crouched behind a tree, holding his breath. The boy spoke first, but not in English. His voice was strange, heavy, carrying sounds that bent the air around him. The girl answered in the same strange tongue. The words buzzed in Daniel's ears, painful, like knives scraping glass. He pressed his palms over his ears, but the language still cut through. It wasn't sound. It was something deeper, something his mind didn't want to understand. Then he heard an English word slip through. Mother. The girl bowed her head. Mother will come soon, she said softly. Daniel's blood froze. The secret. The boy lifted his face toward the sky. His glowing blue eyes seemed brighter than the stars above. The girl followed, whispering words Daniel couldn't recognize. Then suddenly they both turned their heads, straight toward the tree where Daniel hid. Daniel ducked, heart slamming in his chest. He held his breath, praying they hadn't seen him. Silence. Long, endless silence. Finally, when he dared to look again, the children were gone. The clearing stood empty, only cold grass bending in the night wind. Daniel stumbled backward, confused, terrified. He hurried home, his legs shaking. Every step felt heavier, like the air itself was pressing down on him. The mark grows. When he reached his house, he stopped in shock. The handprint on his door had grown. It was no longer small and childlike. Now it stretched taller, wider, almost the size of a grown person's hand. The glow pulsed stronger, spreading faint blue veins into the wood. Daniel's stomach twisted. He backed away, shaking his head. "What do you want from me?" he whispered into the night. The wind answered only with silence. The night vision. That night, sleep came in broken pieces. But when it came, it carried visions. Daniel dreamed he was back in the clearing. The children stood before him, their eyes burning like stars. Behind them, something huge rose from the shadows, a shape with many eyes, thousands of them, blinking in the dark. The children pointed at him. Their voices echoed as one. "He is chosen." Daniel woke with a gasp, sweat dripping. Down his face, his heart thundered. But the worst part, when he looked at his window, two small glowing eyes were staring in from the darkness. The cliffhanger. Daniel stumbled back, fear choking him. The glowing eyes didn't blink. They stayed, pressed against the glass watching him. Then a whisper came, soft and clear, slipping into his house like smoke. "Mother is coming." The eyes vanished. The window went dark. Daniel stood frozen in the silence of his empty house. His hands shook. His skin felt cold. He understood. One thing now, this was no accident. He had been chosen, and whatever Mother was, it was coming for him soon. The night was colder than before. Daniel sat on his couch, lights off, staring at the glowing handprint on his door. It was no longer just a mark. It pulsed like a living thing, as if something on the other side was breathing with it. He hadn't left the house since the vision in the forest. He hadn't told anyone. Who would believe him? Two strange children with glowing eyes speaking in broken English and a language that wasn't human, leaving behind burning marks. It sounded insane, but Daniel didn't care if it sounded crazy. He knew it was real, and he knew something was coming. The hook, cold blue light. At midnight, Daniel woke to a strange sound. Not knocking, not footsteps, a hum. A low vibration, like a deep song sung by something far away, yet inside the walls of his house. Then the kitchen lit up, not with the warm yellow of a lamp, but with cold, shimmering blue light. Daniel grabbed a lamp from his table, holding it like a weapon, and crept forward. Each step felt heavy, as though the house itself wanted to stop him. When he entered the kitchen, he froze. Someone was sitting at his table. It wasn't the boy. It wasn't the girl. It was something else. Tall, too tall, hunched beneath the ceiling. Its skin was pale like fog but stretched thin, and across its body were countless blue eyes blinking all at once. 1,000 small glowing orbs shifting and turning toward him. Daniel's throat locked. His body screamed to run, but his feet stayed frozen. The thing spoke. Its voice was not one voice, but many, layered on top of each other, like a chorus whispering and echoing. "Thank you for feeding my children." The visit Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came. His chest rose and fell in panic. The creature tilted its head. The blue eyes moved across its body like waves. "They are my blood. They are my hunger. They walk this land searching for one who can give them more than scraps. Perhaps that one is you." Daniel shook his head slowly. I didn't feed them on purpose. I just gave them food, that's all." The creature leaned closer. Daniel's lamp trembled in his hand. "They do not eat food. They eat life. They tasted yours, and they found it sweet." Daniel felt sick. He stepped back until his spine pressed against the wall. "No," he whispered. "You're not real." The creature smiled. Its skin split into cracks, glowing blue light spilling from within. "I am more real than you can bear." The bargain. The hum in the walls grew louder, rattling dishes in the cupboards. The creature folded its many-eyed arms on the table. "You will feed them, again and again. You will give what you are until nothing remains. In return, they will not feed on you." Daniel's heart pounded. "And if I refuse?" The creature's eyes blinked in unison. The light in the room grew blinding. The hum became a roar. "Then we will feed on you first, slowly, piece by piece." Daniel gasped. He wanted to scream, but no sound came. Then the creature leaned back, its eyes shifting away for the first time. "But I am merciful. I will let you choose." Cracks in the house. The children stepped into the room, silent, smiling. Their glowing eyes locked on him like predators waiting for a signal. The girl giggled, that sharp glass-breaking sound. "He is scared, Mother. It tastes good." The boy nodded. "He is ready." The walls of the kitchen cracked. Fine lines split across the paint as if invisible hands were pressing from outside. Dust fell from the ceiling. Daniel dropped the lamp. It hit the floor with a hollow clang. "Stop!" he shouted, voice breaking. "Just stop!" The creature's many voices laughed softly. "It is too late to stop. Only to choose." The breaking point. Daniel's chest burned. He thought of running, but the front door was glowing again, pulsing with that same blue mark. He thought of fighting, but what weapon could he use against something like this? His eyes darted to the window. But when he looked, he saw only dozens of glowing eyes staring, back from the darkness outside. More children. Watching. Waiting. He was surrounded. Daniel's legs gave out. He fell to his knees, shaking his head. "Why me?" he whispered. The creature leaned down, its 1,000 eyes blinking like fireflies in the dark. Its breath was cold, as ice when it answered, "Because you are strong, and strong ones make the sweetest feast." Cliffhanger. The hum reached its peak. The children began to sing in their strange language, voices echoing through the broken walls. Daniel clutched his head, ears ringing with pain. The house groaned. The floor shook. The blue light swallowed everything. And then, as Daniel screamed into the glowing dark, the creature whispered a final promise. "This is only the first meal." Daniel's house was silent again. The cracks in the walls had stopped spreading. The blue glow had faded. The creature and the children were gone, as if they had never been there. But Daniel knew it wasn't a dream. His body told him it was real. His skin still tingled with cold where the blue light had touched him. His heart still hammered like a drum. He sat at the table until morning, staring at the empty plate. He thought of what the creature had said. "They do not eat food. They eat life." The words twisted in his head like knives. The hook, a terrible test. The next day, Daniel tried an experiment. He wanted proof. Proof that he wasn't crazy. Proof that what he had seen was true. He cooked again. Nothing special, just scrambled eggs. He left the plate on the table. Hours passed. Then came the soft knock. 3 taps. Daniel froze, but he didn't move. Slowly, the door creaked open by itself. The boy and girl walked in, their glowing blue eyes fixed on the plate. They sat down, without asking, without speaking. Daniel watched carefully this time. His stomach twisted as the food melted into their skin again, vanishing as if the plate had never been full. But something else happened. The boy turned his head toward the old radio on the counter. It was off, silent, dusty. Then, without touching it, he whispered a small laugh. The radio clicked alive. Music played, a song Daniel hadn't heard since childhood. It was his father's favorite song. Daniel's breath caught. He had never told anyone about it. Not even the children could have known. The girl smiled. "We like your memories." Daniel's blood ran cold. The feeding. The children didn't just absorb food. They absorbed him. His feelings, his past, his laughter. Even the warmth of his body seemed weaker when they were near. He realized what the creature had meant. This was not hunger for food. It was hunger for human soul energy. Daniel stepped back, shaking his head. "Stop it. Get out." The boy tilted his head. "But you taste better than the others." The girl nodded, her glowing eyes burning brighter. "Yes. You make us stronger." Daniel's chest tightened. He felt weak already, as if just standing near them drained him. His knees buckled and he grabbed the table for support. The boy leaned closer. "We don't want your food anymore. We want you." A horrible realization. Daniel forced himself to move. He grabbed the plate, smashed it against the sink and shouted, "Get out of my house!" The children did not flinch. They only giggled, their glass-breaking laughter echoing through the kitchen. "We will leave," the girl said softly. "But we will return. Mother said you are chosen. You cannot hide." They walked to the door. Their small hands touched the wood. Another glowing handprint burned into it, larger this time, pulsing like a wound. Daniel's throat tightened as the children vanished into the night. He leaned against the counter, gasping for breath. His hands shook. He felt drained, older, weaker. It was as if years had been stolen from him in minutes. The growing fear over. The next few days, Daniel noticed changes. When he looked into mirrors, his eyes seemed duller, his skin paler. He forgot things, simple things, the taste of his mother's cooking, the sound of a friend's laugh, pieces of his life slipping away. And every night, he heard whispers outside his window, the children calling softly, "We are hungry. Let us in." He blocked the doors with furniture. He locked every window. But still the blue glow seeped under the cracks, reminding him that the walls could not keep them out forever. The music. Box. One night, Daniel tried another test. He took an old music box from his attic, something his grandmother had given him as a boy. When he wound it, the soft tune filled the room. It was a memory he cherished, one of the few left untouched by the children. The moment the tune played, he felt the air change. The children's whispers grew louder outside. Their hands scratched against the glass, eager, hungry. Daniel realized the truth. They weren't feeding on random memories. They wanted the ones that carried the most warmth, the deepest love, his best moments, his joy, his soul. Cliffhanger, the taste of fear. The music box stopped. Silence filled the room. Then slowly the front door began to creak open, even though he had locked it. The blue glow spilled across the floor. Daniel stood frozen, gripping the music box in his hands. The boy's voice came from the darkness, low and calm. "We don't need your food anymore." The girl's voice followed, sharp as glass. "We only need you." And then the house shook with the sound of dozens of small feet entering at once. Daniel could not stay still anymore. Every night the children came closer. Every day he felt weaker. His memories slipped like sand through his fingers. He needed answers. He needed to know if this nightmare had happened before. So, for the first time in days, he left his house. The hook, old stories. The town looked normal under the morning sun. People walked dogs. Cars rolled past. Children laughed at a bus stop. But Daniel felt the world was split in two. On one side, the bright surface of life. On the other, the dark secret that stalked him at night. At the library, he searched old newspapers. The smell of dust and paper filled the air as he turned yellowed pages. Most articles were ordinary, sports scores, local events. But then he found something that made his chest tighten, a headline from 20 years ago. Family, of 4 missing after strange lights seen near woods. He read quickly. Neighbors had reported children with glowing eyes knocking on doors asking for food. Days later, the entire family was gone. The house was abandoned, left to rot. Daniel's stomach turned. This wasn't new. It had happened before. The empty houses. Daniel left the library and drove to the old street named in the article. The house was still there. Its windows were broken. Its door hung loose on rusty hinges. Inside, the walls were gray and lifeless, drained of color, as if the house itself had been sucked dry. He ran his hand across the wall. It was ice cold. Then, he saw it. On the doorframe of the kitchen, burned deep into the wood, was a glowing blue handprint, smaller than a grown man's, childlike, just like his. Daniel stumbled back, his breath quick and shallow. He wasn't alone. Others had been chosen before him, and none had survived. The truth spreads. He searched more. Other houses in the area, abandoned, forgotten. Each one carried the same signs. Walls drained, furniture rotting, faint blue handprints, glowing in the dark. It was a pattern. The children moved from house to house, family to family. They drained their victims until nothing was left. Then they vanished, leaving the homes as empty shells. Daniel's chest tightened. His own house would become one of these. He would vanish too. Unless he found a way to stop them. Watching eyes as he walked back to his car, he felt it, the heavy pressure of being watched. He turned. In the distance, at the edge of the trees, 2 small figures stood. The boy and girl, they didn't move, didn't speak, only watched him with their glowing eyes. Daniel froze. His heart thundered. Then more figures appeared behind them. 4, 6, 10. All children, all with glowing blue eyes, silent, still. Daniel rushed into his car and locked the doors. His hands shook as he started the engine. The children didn't chase him. They didn't need to. They only smiled as he drove away. The newspaper clippings back home. Daniel spread the clippings across his table. Missing families. Strange lights. Blue-eyed children. The stories repeated over decades like a cycle. Always the same pattern. Always ending in silence. He rubbed his temples, exhaustion eating at him. His body felt weaker than yesterday. His reflection in the dark window looked older, as if years had passed in days. He whispered to himself, "I'm next." Midnight knock that. Night, the knocking returned. Not 3 taps this time. Dozens. Hundreds. The sound shook his door like hail in a storm. Daniel staggered to his feet, staring in horror. The entire door glowed blue, covered in countless handprints burning into the wood. He shouted, "Leave me alone!" His voice cracked. From outside, many voices answered at once. Children's voices, whispering in unison. "Let us in. We are hungry." Daniel backed away, tripping over his chair. His chest burned with terror. The door opens. The knocking stopped. Silence spread. Then, with a slow creak, the front door opened by itself. Daniel's blood froze. In the doorway, dozens of small figures stood shoulder to shoulder, children of every age, all with glowing blue eyes. Their pale faces smiled. Their whispers filled the air, soft as wind. "You will feed us." Daniel stumbled back, clutching the wall for balance. The children stepped inside, their glowing eyes lighting the room like lanterns in the dark. Cliffhanger. The flood of children. They moved toward him, silent and calm. Dozens of bare feet, padding across the floor. Daniel's body shook. His heart pounded in his ears. He wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. The boy from the first night stepped forward. His voice was calm, almost kind. "Do not fear. You will not be the last." The girl giggled, sharp as broken glass. "There are many more houses, many more to join you." Daniel's throat tightened as he realized the truth. This wasn't just about him. The children were multiplying and his town was next. The house was no longer Daniel's. It had become something else, a nest, a hollow shell waiting to be filled. Blue light pulsed from the walls like veins under skin. The air was heavy, cold and alive with whispers. Daniel sat in his kitchen, staring at the long wooden table. He had placed plates, forks, and cups across it. A full dinner, steaming hot. Meat, bread, soup. He had cooked for hours, though his hands shook the whole time. This was his plan, his trap. Because tonight, they were coming. The hook, the gathering. The first knock was soft. Then another, then another. Soon the whole house shook with the rhythm of many fists. Daniel didn't move. He waited. His heart thundered in his chest, but he forced himself to breathe slowly. The front door opened by itself, and they entered. Dozens of children stepped into the house. Pale faces, glowing eyes. Their feet made no sound on the floor. They filled the kitchen, crowding around the table, sitting silently in chairs too large for them. They stared at the food with hungry smiles. And then, the blue light bent and stretched, and she appeared. The mother. Her body towered above them all, bending under the ceiling. Thousands of blue eyes blinked across her skin, glowing brighter than the children's. The hum of her voice rattled the plates. "You have prepared the feast." Daniel's throat was dry. He forced the words out. "Yes, a last supper. The children eat." The children leaned forward, hands reaching for the food. But this time Daniel had changed the meal. The bread was soaked in salt, the soup laced with fire powder, the meat burned with bitter herbs he had read about in old folklore. Things that ghosts, demons, and spirits were said to hate. He had nothing else. This was his only chance. The children ate. The food melted into their skin vanishing like before. But this time their faces twisted, their glowing eyes flickered. The boy dropped his spoon, hissing, "It burns!" The girl screamed, her sharp laughter breaking into shrieks. "It hurts us!" Blue fire sparked across their arms, leaving cracks of black ash. Daniel's chest filled with a grim hope. His plan was working. The mother's wrath. But the mother rose higher, her eyes burning brighter. Her many voices roared at once, shaking the walls. "You dare poison my bloodline?" The plates shattered. The windows cracked. The house groaned, like it was alive and angry. The children wailed, their small bodies glowing and flickering. Some fell to the ground, clawing at the walls. Others melted into blue mist, vanishing into the air. Daniel covered his ears, screaming against the roar. "The mother's voice thundered. You will pay for this." The fight for survival. Daniel grabbed the lamp he had filled with kerosene. He lit a match with trembling hands. The flame burned weakly, but it was real, alive, human. He swung the lamp onto the table. Fire erupted. Across the poisoned feast, the salt and herbs burning with bright sparks. The children shrieked, their glowing bodies twisting and writhing. The mother staggered, her countless eyes blinking in pain. Her body cracked, light spilling from her like shattered glass. For the first time she looked weaker. Daniel shouted through the smoke, his voice breaking. "You feed on us, but we fight back." He grabbed another jar of salt and hurled it at her chest. The crystals burst across her pale skin, leaving black scars. The mother screamed, a sound that shook the earth. The shadow of death, but her power was not broken. With a single wave of her hand, Daniel's body slammed into the wall, his vision blurred. His ribs ached with fire. The children, though wounded, began to crawl toward him, their glowing eyes locked on his fading strength. The mother leaned close, her many eyes blinking as one. Her cold breath washed over him. "You cannot destroy hunger. You cannot kill what was never alive." Daniel coughed blood, forcing himself to stay awake. His body screamed in pain, but his will refused to break. He knew this was not the end. Not yet. Cliffhanger. The roar. The fire spread across the kitchen. Smoke filled the air. The children's screams mixed with the mother's roar. Daniel dragged himself across the floor, every movement agony, his eyes locked on the basement door. Inside were the last weapons he had prepared. More salt, more fire, more traps. If he could reach them, he might survive. If he failed, he would be consumed like all the others. The mother's roar grew louder, shaking the roof. Blue cracks split across the walls, leaking light into the night sky. Daniel pulled himself to the door handle, coughing, shaking. Behind him, the mother's voice filled the burning room. "This is your last night, human." The door to the basement creaked open, and then everything went black. Daniel woke on the cold floor, smoke pressing down on his lungs. The fire in the kitchen had weakened, but the air still stank of ash and salt. His body ached, every bone screaming with pain. Slowly, he dragged himself into the basement. The door slammed shut behind him as if the house itself wanted to trap him. But down here, he had prepared. Jars of salt, bottles of kerosene, old iron tools, things he had read about in ancient folklore, things said to harm spirits and demons. He never believed in them before. Now they were all he had left. Above him, the mother roared. The sound shook the house. The children's voices joined in. Dozens of whispers crying for food, crying for him. Daniel's hands trembled as he filled jars with salt, tying cloth around them. He made torches from broken furniture and dipped them in kerosene. His body was weak, but his will burned stronger than ever. He whispered to himself, "If I die tonight, I won't die alone." The hook, the siege. The basement door exploded open. Blue light poured down the stairs. The children poured with it, dozens of them. Small hands reaching, pale faces grinning, glowing eyes burning with hunger. Daniel lit the first torch and swung it hard. Fire blazed across the steps. The children shrieked, their glowing bodies recoiling from the flames. He threw a jar of salt. It burst across the floor, burning their skin like acid. They screamed, twisting and fading into mist. But more came, always more. Behind them, the mother descended. Her 1,000 eyes blinked in unison, filling the basement with an endless glow. Her many voices spoke at once, shaking the walls. "You cannot fight hunger, you cannot fight us all." Daniel tightened his grip on the torch. His voice cracked, but he shouted anyway. "Maybe I can't, but we can." The call for help he had planned for this. Days earlier, when he realized he couldn't win alone, he had left notes around the town, messages on doors, chalk on sidewalks, warnings carved into wood. They are real. They are coming. Fire and salt can stop them. At first he thought no one would believe him, but he had nothing to lose. Now, as the basement shook, he heard it. The sound of footsteps above. Human footsteps. The neighbors had come. The fight. Turns, the front windows shattered. Firebombs made from bottles crashed inside. Flames spread across the living room. Voices shouted through the smoke. "Burn them. Don't let them touch you. Salt the ground." Daniel crawled up the stairs, coughing through the smoke. When he reached the top, he saw them, his neighbors, carrying torches, buckets of salt, old iron bars. Ordinary people, but together they looked stronger than any monster. The children hissed, their glowing eyes wide. For the first time, they stepped back. The mother roared, her many eyes blinking in fury. "You dare resist me?" Daniel stood beside his neighbors. His body shook, but his voice was steady. "Humans share. Humans fight together. That's why you'll never win." The battle. The house became a war zone. Fire blazed across the walls. Salt burned into the floors. The children screamed as the townsfolk struck them with iron rods, drove them back with torches. Every time a child touched the flames, its body cracked and melted into smoke. Every time salt touched their skin, their glow faded. The mother fought, back, her voice a storm, her arms slamming through walls. But the more the people pushed, the more her form cracked. Her 1,000 eyes began to dim. Daniel hurled his last jar of salt at her chest. It burst in a white blaze, leaving a black wound that spread across her body. The mother screamed louder than thunder, her form breaking apart. One by one, her eyes burst into darkness. Then, with a final roar, she collapsed into blue mist and vanished into the night. The silence. After the house fell quiet, the fire hissed as it died. The walls stopped shaking. The children were gone. All but one. At the edge of the room, the little girl from the first night stood alone. Her glowing eyes dimmed. Softer now, almost human. Daniel froze, torch in hand. The neighbors raised their weapons, but the girl only smiled. She stepped closer, her small hands open. Her voice was calm, gentle. "We don't need her. We only need you." Cliffhanger. The beginning or the end, Daniel's chest tightened. The townsfolk waited for his command. Should they strike? Should they burn her too? But Daniel could not move. The girl's glowing eyes stared into him, pulling something deeper than fear. For the first time, she didn't look like a monster. She looked like a child. Lonely. Empty. Hungry. She whispered again, soft as breath. "Stay with us. Be our family." The room grew silent. The neighbors lowered their torches, unsure. Daniel's hand trembled. His choice would decide everything, and, in the silence of the broken house, one truth became clear. This was not the end, it was only the beginning.